Manchester, England.
All right, Tokyo!
To the scenic shores of Chicago.
Are you ready?
I'm sorry, homie. We don't do no happy songs.
I don't know how to tell you this, but
That's right, this is Tapes You Leave Behind. I'm Brian, joined by my co-host Emerald.
Hello.
And we're taking another look at history this week. And
Again,
yes. We've done 2 of these so far, and each of those we looked at 3 songs apiece. Mm-hmm. This time, we're only looking at 1 song.
Just one song,
Just a singular song that has enough to fill up the entire episode. Because it features not 1 historical event. Not 2 historical events.
Okay.
But 119 historical events.
Oh.
That's right.
That's a lot.
We're going to be taking a look at every single thing mentioned in Billy Joel's 1989 number 1 hit, We Didn't Start the Fire.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. There are definitely a lot of things referenced.
There are a ton
in
of
that
things
song.
referenced inside of We Didn't Start the Fire. As I mentioned, 119 things to be exact.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So the song was apparently inspired, according to Billy Joel, by an interaction with a friend of Sean Lennon's, a 21-year-old kid who said, "Man, it really sucks to be 21 right now." And Billy Joel replied, "Yeah, I remember thinking that when I was 21 as well." And he's like, yeah, but it's different for you. You were a kid in the 50s, and everybody knows that nothing happened in the 50s.
Right.
So she's like, nothing happened in the 50s? Man, what are you talking about? And then he's inspired, apparently, to show that kid a lot of things happened. As we will get into here very shortly. And one thing going through this thing, I didn't know, and I've heard the song a bajillion times. Everybody has heard this song. Most people claim they don't like this song.
Right.
I enjoy it. I think it's fine.
I'm indifferent. I don't think that you say a lot of people have heard this song a lot. Sure. I don't think I could necessarily tell you most of the words. I don't think I know it that well.
I think I will say every word in the song throughout this.
Oh, great.
As we go on.
But I also think that I might have heard this version that's just the periodic table more than I've heard the original.
That's
when
pretty
I was
bad.
studying for the periodic table in, I don't know, high school or whatever. It's like you memorize the periodic table in order, and it's set to this song. Mm-hmm. So it's like hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium.
Yeah.
Boron, carbon, nitrogen. I know that, but I don't know the original that well.
Right. Yeah, well, you're about to learn it very well, in and out, every single thing mentioned, as well as what those things are. And as I was going through this, I think it was about 20 points in when I realized the song's in chronological order.
Wow.
So not only did he sit down and manage to find 119 eventful things, some event might be a loose term, sometimes it kind of rattles off a person.
Yeah.
But he still managed to put them more or less in order, which actually made some of them it easier to find what he's talking about. Because sometimes he'll say something that could be applied multiple times throughout history, or a person specifically, and I'm like, why are you talking about that person here? Oh, we're in this year, so it's definitely referring to this, account or instance or event tied to them. So without further ado, as I mentioned, we have 119 things to get through. Let's get started with the first thing mentioned in the song. Emerald, do you remember what it is? What is the first thing Billy Joel mentions? What's his first historical marker? I'll give you a hint. It's the first of many of these in the song. It's a person.
President.
President, indeed. What U.S. president starts off the list? Harry Truman.
Okay.
Harry Truman, 33rd President of the United States of America. He was vice president for Roosevelt and took over as president on April 12, 1945. The end of World War II.
Good year.
Yeah.
Well, the latter part. When the war ended.
Famous for being the one to okay the nuclear bombing of Japan.
Really good.
Also a very famous picture of him holding up a newspaper from the 1948 election. where it says that his rival Dewey defeated him. The big headline, Dewey defeats Truman, even though that wasn't right. The newspaper was rushed out before the election tallying was done.
Oh, I have never heard of that.
You ever seen it?
No, I was pretty sheltered when it comes to events that happened before the 1990s. So I apologize in advance to our 4 listeners. I am horrible with history that doesn't involve
It's featured on
some sort of...
some editions of Rush's Permanent Waves album. There's like a newspaper blowing across the ground, and that's what it is. Though on later issues, it was swapped for kind of a generic newspaper.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why, actually? Is it too political?
I mean, that's probably really it. Yeah, maybe whoever owns the newspaper or something. But like on like really recent ones, that has it back. So I don't really know.
Oh.
No
alright.
clue.
Okay.
While I was looking into this, I found a really interesting thing about Harry Truman, where his daughter was doing a recital, and some newspaper person put out a review of his daughter's recital saying, Miss Truman is a unique American phenomenon with a pleasant voice of little size and fair quality. She cannot sing very well, is flat a good deal of the time, more last night than any time we've ever heard in the past years. Has not improved in the years we have heard her, and still cannot sing with anything approaching professional finish. To which Truman then, as an official like White House document, put back a retort at that author. This is while he was president. Saying, I've just read your lousy review of Margaret's concert. I've come to the conclusion that you are an 8 ulcer man on 4 ulcer pay. Very interesting.
What does that even mean?
I'm not really sure.
Okay.
That he's kind of a grumpy old man who's not paid enough to be that grumpy. It seems to me that you are a frustrated old man who wishes he could have been successful. When you write such poppycock as was in the back section of the paper, you work for it shows conclusively that are off the beam and at least 4 of your ulcers are at work. Someday I hope to meet you. When that happens, you'll need a new nose, a lot of beefsteak for black eyes, and perhaps a supporter below. Pegler, a gutter snipe, is a gentleman alongside you. I hope you'll accept that statement as a worse insult than a reflection on your ancestry.
You know,
He got some flack for putting that out, but I don't know, he's defending his kids.
I was gonna say I was surprised. Wait, also, how old was this kid?
I think she was a teen, maybe slightly older.
Oh, wow. You know that one senator, Ted Cruz?
Mm-hmm.
He could learn from this.
Yeah.
Remember when Mr. President Donald Trump called his wife ugly?
Yeah.
And his kids too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And he didn't do anything.
No.
Versus Truman literally wrote like, "I'm gonna beat your ass on sight
He did
next time
literally
I
just
see
say in
you."
there that he's going to beat him up.
He's a family man.
Yeah,
What
he
can I
received
say?
quite some political blowback for that from the press, but oh well.
Eh,
Moving on.
nothing
So
compared
after
to
Truman,
nowadays.
he mentioned Doris Day.
Yeah.
Celebrity, actress, and singer, starred in many movies such as The Man Who Knew Too Much and Calamity Jane, a Western.
Yep.
She had a massively long career. About all I
Yep,
got
she
for
did.
that.
Very beautiful.
Next, Red China. Getting into
Okay.
politics, events,
Communism.
and that'd be the Chinese Revolution of 1949, which Mao Zedong announced the creation of the People's Republic of China. Then,
Do you think it's interesting? Sorry to interrupt,
No, go
but
ahead.
do you think it's interesting that he started, he started midway through the 40s?
he started in his birth year of 1949.
Oh, that's why.
Yep.
Oh, I
He started
thought.
with his birth.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind. That does make sense. I was just like, so much happened before then. Why
Yeah.
didn't he go back a little further? But okay.
Nope. Yeah, he started with when he was born.
Wow.
Next thing, Johnny Ray, singer and songwriter, born in Dallas, Oregon.
Dallas,
Yep,
Oregon,
it's a
huh?
little west of Salem.
Where the Revnishkas, whatever they're called, Omnish.
I think that was in the
That
Dalles.
cult. Oh.
Dallas is near Salem.
Oh.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
yeah. He was born in 1927, pre-Elvis era rock and roll. Inspiration to acts like Elvis. Also, interestingly of note, deaf.
Deaf.
Yep.
Oh.
You know, he contributes that
How
to his
did that
kind of
work?
unique rock style, something about not being able to hear.
Huh.
Yeah. Also, apparently, he's probably homosexual, but he couldn't be openly gay back then, so
We just learned
Came
Pee Wee
out.
Herman
Yeah.
came out after
Lived until he was
even though
over
died.
90 years old.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Died relatively recently. Next is South Pacific. As I mentioned, that could be a lot of things, but thankfully, as is chronological, 1949 is the release of the musical South Pacific.
Oh.
So that is what he's referencing here specifically. Extremely popular musical, Rodgers and Hammerstein flick.
Okay.
Brought us some big songs, Bally High. Heard Sam Cooke do that one before. I'm in Love with a Wonderful Guy. No, it's in
Nah.
Fallout. You've probably heard it.
Oh.
And maybe more relevant to people of the 80s, Happy Talk. This was a hit for Captain
Happy
Sensible
Talk.
of the Damned. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
that one.
Yeah. It also led to short hair for women as a fashion statement. Because one of the characters in the musical ends up cutting her hair short so she can easily maintain it once a day with a shower.
Oh.
And it led to that being a
Interesting.
popular trend.
Yeah, like all the. Well, I don't know about the 50s, but in the 80s it was like bad girl style. But I'm guessing in the 50s it's probably just.
From what I gathered, they were really
Stylish.
intrigued. Yeah, there's both because this play was very hip. But they were also into the, holy cow, I can just
cut my hair
cut
off.
my hair and
yeah.
take a shower and not need to go into the
And
stylist to get it done.
yeah,
every
and
day.
like set my rollers
Yeah.
overnight. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Next up, we got Walter Winchell. Born in 1897. He was a newspaper
Okay.
columnist. And probably more relevant to Billy Joel, a radio guy.
Oh, like
He was on the radio, he was on the news, he'd deliver little, like, news bits. Apparently one of the popular things, he used a lot of jazz jargon. Also, listening to some clips, he speaks in little bursts of dialogue. Kind of very transatlantic
So
sort of.
very
Yeah.
like notable radio personality.
Mhm, very much so. Very much so. Next, we get Joe DiMaggio, the first of many athletes listed in this. Baseball player for the Yankees in the 30s and the 50s. Very good. Also, of note, maybe he was the coach of the A's for like a year or two.
Okay.
Highlight and probably why he's right here in this song. In 1949 would be the year he got 46 straight games with getting a hit.
Wow, that's
that
pretty
record
good.
still holds the day, with the closest since then being Pete Rose, who only got 44.
Dang.
Yeah, some
That's
people say
really
it's an
good.
impossible feat in the modern era to ever get again.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
I think just pitching's too good. I guess I don't know.
Athletes,
Yeah,
athletes are too
just
athletes.
better.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've got Joe McCarthy.
Joe
That'd be
McCarthy.
Joseph McCarthy,
Yeah.
American politician who would hunt you down if you were a communist.
Okay.
They'd take you to trial and have you charged in the House for being un-American. Un-American committee. They would go after you and root out the communists, which they use as a blanket term to hunt down anybody they didn't like as well.
Exactly.
In Hollywood, they would use it to hunt down, as we mentioned before, the gays,
Yeah.
anybody who was against the system. Joseph McCarthy not exactly having the most stellar record in history, has not looked very well back on him. Senator out of Wisconsin. Next up, second president on the list, didn't take very long, Richard Nixon. Now of note, here we have Richard Nixon here, not for being president.
Really?
I mean, it's too early to think. Like, he wouldn't become president until 70. We'll get to him back. He comes back in the song again. So we'll come back to talk about Richard Nixon Normandy because it's the second time in the song.
Okay.
But let's talk about Cars, the Studebaker.
I'm sorry. I'm
I
not
mean, it's a
going to
car.
be helpful.
It was a popular U.S.
don't know
car
anything.
in the 10s through the 50s, and then just kind of died off and went away.
Okay.
But very popular. If you think about like any like movie like the 30s or 40s, kind of what they're driving around.
Like a
Almost
wagon?
certainly. Kind of more like those weird, just rounded, sort of PT Cruiser in body shape. I don't want to say for anything modern to compare it to.
Okay, I'm looking it up. Oh, yeah. Like a... Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
so
seen
like, they got
these.
like the sedan version kind of thing, but then they also have a lot more of like
Like the police cars.
old
of
school
old
police
time.
car in
Yeah.
a movie. Yeah.
That's like, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very broad one. After Studebaker, television. Pretty much the television comes to the house, you can start watching, taped and live things.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a big piece of
It's
history.
crazy.
It
It's
seems-
crazy to think about.
Yeah.
When was that?
This would be
Do you
like
know?
1950. Kind of when he's putting this
1950
in the song.
is
for
when
time
they
period.
first got like TVs really
Yeah.
in the house, and now that's
Before
crazy.
they had to go out on the street and find a little orphan boy to buy a newspaper from to learn what's happening
Exactly.
and turn it into the radio.
Right.
We take it for granted now that you can watch TV. You can watch on anything. You have a television in your pocket most of the time, but back then you had to gather around the giant 4-inch television screen in the living room.
Wait for it to warm up.
Wait for it to warm up. It's like 8 pixels by 8 pixels.
That's wild.
Next is North Korea, South Korea. Not in this case the war. This is referring to more of kind of an interesting split in history. So Japan had taken over Korea
Yeah.
during World War II. And then by this point, similar to Germany, once the war was over, Korea was taken over, with the North getting taken by Russia and the South getting taken over by kind of the Allies in the United States.
Yes. I know this at least.
Yeah. And then in 1948, they weren't able to agree on a reunification, and they just kind of fought. In 1950, the North invaded the South, starting the war.
It's interesting to see because you can go back and look at maps, and it would just constantly push and pull. Like at one point, North Korea had a majority of the island, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
There was just a little tiny spot at the very bottom that was South Korea, and then that's when the U.S. kind of came in and helped and pushed that border a lot further. So, yeah, quite interesting.
Marilyn Monroe, actress, cultural icon, died at the early age of 36. I mean, if you don't know who Marilyn Monroe is, I don't know. You're not consuming any culture, and you probably haven't heard this song to start with.
I know, and that's, like I said, saying
Yeah. About the Rosenbergs.
I know them.
You
They're
know them?
spies.
Julius and Ethel, American
Allegedly.
couple. Almost certainly, as far as we can tell. They were tried and executed for passing nuclear secrets to the Russians. McCarthy was involved in this, as well as some other people who we'll get to later. Interestingly, the Russians, some of them who spoke openly about it in positions of power, said that they didn't get anything of use from them.
Yeah.
Said the information they passed over was crap.
Right.
So remember that next time you try to turn treason, what you have probably isn't worth it. And if you get caught, they just kill you.
Yeah, you'd have to be, it's all secretive, right?
Yeah.
So you'd have to be pretty high up to have something of use.
Next, the H-bomb. First we had the atomic bomb. But what if we had a bigger one?
Yeah.
The hydrogen bomb.
Yep.
Luckily, one has never been used in a violent war manner.
Yeah.
I'm sure people have
They'd
gotten
just be
radiation
testing
poisoning
it.
from the
Yeah,
testing,
exactly.
but luckily, we haven't had to use that
The
one on
ocean.
anybody, but yeah, it's out there. Watch out. Next, Sugar Ray. I just want to
Sugar
fly.
Ray?
Yeah. No. Sugar Ray, a boxer. Also, probably Sugar Ray Robinson, not Sugar Ray Leonard. Again, judging by the time period. Both are successful boxers, but Robinson was active at this time period.
Wait, so there were two boxers that had the same nickname?
Yeah.
Oh my god. That's so confusing.
Yeah, well, as I said, they're not active at the same time period, so. Panmunjom. You mentioned Korea earlier. We're going back. There's a city between the North and the South where armistice in the Korean War would be agreed upon. The city is no longer more. It is now where the DMZ border is between the countries.
Oh, okay.
Next up, Brando.
Marlon.
Marlon Brando, indeed, the actor. You know.
I know him from The Godfather.
The Godfather. Apocalypse Now. Probably here in this position, saw more something like Streetcar Named Desire. Young, hot Marlon Brando, not the weird older Marlon Brando.
He got cotton in his mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a
Kim won't bother to learn his lines. They have to hold up cards for him. Yeah, that Marlon Brando. The King and I.
Oh yeah, I've
Rodgers
seen
and
that.
Hammerstein musical number 2 on the list. This one's set in Siam.
Yep.
Which is now
Vietnam. Thailand. My bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not racist. I'm just ignorant.
A lot of culture, interesting, right? It's not really news.
A lot of Eastern.
Yeah, a lot of Asia.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot
moving in.
happening there.
I watched the movie, The King and I.
Yeah,
It was a musical
Yeah.
movie.
musical,
Yeah.
based off book.
Yeah, that was good. It's cute.
Catcher
Romance.
and the Rye. Next thing, listen to the song. Another book.
I've read that too.
J.D. Salinger, 1951 book. Favorite of many famous people.
Including.
George H.W. Bush, Bill Gates, and everybody's favorite assassin, Mark David Chapman.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the one that came to mind.
Assassin of John Lennon, who believed that after he shot John Lennon, he would get absorbed into the book itself that he carried with him,
Correct.
which did not happen.
Well,
He is still in jail.
yeah, but what if he continually reads it?
Maybe
Then he
that's
is
true.
kind
Maybe
of
he just sits in
absorbed
his jail
into the
cell
book.
reading about
Like,
Holden
he
Caulfield all
mentally
day.
is there.
Kind of the
not physically.
OG too cool character.
Yes, he hates everything and
Yeah,
everyone.
nihilist to the extreme. Mm-hmm. All right, another president, Eisenhower, president number 34, served from 1953 to 1961, where he was a general in World War II and the leader of NATO.
Wow.
He very famously warned us of the military-industrial complex at the end of his term.
Wow.
Who better know than the head of the army?
Yeah, exactly.
I have quite a large quote here. I'm just going to read it because, as I said, it's an important thing. Eisenhower, as he's leaving now, said, "A vital element in keeping peace in our military establishment. Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. The conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new to the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved, so it is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwanted influence, whether sought or unsought by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industry and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals so that security and liberty may prosper together." Quite the quote.
Yeah.
It's intelligible.
Yeah.
It's very direct. Makes reference that the military can be used by people in power incorrectly.
Exactly.
And it's up to us, the people, to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well,
Good thing
sorry, Dwight.
everybody heeded that word and no issues have ever came. Next up, vaccine. Another hot button. Half of these things could just be nowadays.
I know.
But in this case, it's actually kind of the flip side. It's like, hey, vaccines are a thing.
yeah.
In this case, it's almost certainly referring to the polio vaccine.
Right.
Rolling down in the 50s.
Yes.
That's another Eisenhower one. I was looking into this for vaccines of polio. Some quotes from Eisenhower telling the people, please go get vaccinated.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, polio wrecks you.
Moving to 1952, England's got a new queen. That's right, in 1952, Queen Elizabeth took over.
Yeah.
She was 26 years old.
That's wild. I
Served
thought she
until
was
her
younger.
death in 2022.
I thought that she was like 21.
70 years reigning.
Yeah.
It's gotta be weird.
Was she the longest?
I think so. And I can't imagine anybody else would have, or else they would have.
Unless they were like a kid. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
She took over for her father, King George VI, who had served as the king for 16 years.
Yep.
Man, it's gotta be tough. Like, you watch it, they're pretty much just a public figure 24/7. Like, what do you do? Do you think she gotta, watch television? Think she had one of those TVs you mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
Think she went to the theater and saw The King and I?
Yeah, I do.
You think so?
Yeah,
Do you
because...
think the Queen gets to go to the movie theater?
Yeah. Well, she probably has her own movie theater. But, I think that the government was changing quite a bit, right? So the monarch slowly became more of just a tradition, a face. But I don't know that they really do a lot. They're not technically ruling, right?
Yeah.
They just and maybe this is ignorance on my part, in which, sorry, British monarchs, but it seems like they just kind of, they get to boost morale a little bit
Yeah.
of the people, and sometimes that backfires. Actually, oftentimes I think that backfires. It's probably half and half people who hate the Queen and love the Queen.
After England's got a new queen, we go to Marciano. I'm like 90% sure he's referring to this one as Rocky Marciano, our second boxer of the list. Mm-hmm. Boxing used to be quite big. In this case, Rocky Marciano was the only heavyweight boxer ever to retire undefeated.
Wow.
Which may be like the, baseball trivia up there may be considered impossible in today's news. It seems like a long time for that to never happen again.
Maybe people are scared, though. Like, maybe he didn't fight that often.
Yeah. Next up, we got Liberace. A very flamboyant pianist. Almost like a proto-Elton John. Very famous, like, kind of celeb. Just, like, massive, gaudy outfits.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a piano player, so maybe that helps get extra points from why Billy Joel is putting it on the list. Then we got Santayana. Goodbye, he says. I think the goodbye here is referencing because he died. He's a Spanish philosopher, very famous for his quotes.
Okay.
He would say things like, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it, and only the dead have seen the end of war."
Okay.
He would have, like, crushed it on today's, like, modern internet. Those kind of quips.
You think so?
I think so. I think he
you
would have
think
killed it
it's-
on Twitter.
I think we're too dumb now.
I think we're too dumb.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of why we don't really have philosophers anymore.
They can, like, on Instagram picture him looking out the window. It's a little dark outside. Caption, "Only the dead have seen the end of war."
No, I think people would, like, call him autistic or something.
Yeah, probably. Oh, it's chorus time. After that, we didn't start the fire.
Yep. We didn't start the fire.
Always burning. And we roll on to Joseph Stalin. Leader of the USSR that died in 1953. I do notice a lot of the famous people he puts in here, unless they're doing something active at that point, because they died in that time period in the timeline.
Oh, I see. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's, like, important for that time because they died.
There's the death of Stalin. Time of change that we'll get to really fast in here. After he says, Joseph Stalin says, Malenkov, Georgy Maximilovich Malenkov, who took over after Stalin died for a whole week before he was ousted as leader of the USSR.
Jeez.
We will get to who that was after, like, later down the list.
Wow.
But, yeah, old Georgie didn't stay in power too long.
A week. That's
1
pretty
week.
short.
Keeping our trend of leaders, next he says Nasser, which is Gamal Abdel Nasser, the second president of Egypt.
Yep. I thought it was Nassar.
I
but,
have no idea.
Okay. Yep.
I think he says Nasser in the song, though, but once again, yeah. It might just be, reading these out of an encyclopedia like I was reading this off the lyrics sheet. So, did a lot for Egypt. Is credited for bringing large social reforms, cultural and industrial growth into there. But also negatively viewed for his leanings towards being a kind of a dictator, as well as some very strong anti-Semitic views.
Well, you can't be good at everything, I
Can't.
guess.
Can't be. Next we got Prokofiev, Sergeyevich Prokofiev.
Oh my God.
This is Russian stuff. He died in 1953, as I said. If they're famous and on here, and it's not for them taking power somewhere, it's where they probably died. He was a Russian pianist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know any famous Russian?
I'm just
pieces?
relieved that it wasn't like some
The
horrible
Nazi dictator?
Yeah.
No.
Good.
We might know him in the West probably best for he did Peter and the Wolf. Featured in a lot of cartoons. No.
No,
alright.
I'm
You
sorry.
probably saw it as a child. Next we got
we'll see.
Rockefeller.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one because there are a lot of Rockefellers.
There are a way lot.
So this may be referring to the families as a whole. For instance, the patriarch John D., who became one of the richest men in America, oil. Though, as I said, this is a chronological song, so it's probably actually referring to his grandson, Nelson Rockefeller, who, this is relevant to Billy Joel and knows a lot of things, was the mayor of New York.
Oh.
New York City, from 1959 to 1973. Also of note, he was vice president under Gerald Ford.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
to be rich.
What money can do for you.
Yeah.
It's got Campanella. Again, New York. This would be Roy Campanella, catcher for the Dodgers. I consider one of the best to ever do it.
I'm sure.
About it.
You said the Dodgers?
Yep.
Oh,
New
okay.
York Dodgers.
Oh, that's why I was confused.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll get to that. Don't worry. The Dodgers will show up a lot in this song.
Okay.
Dodgers and Yankees are
I
going to be like the
think
only
that-
two baseball teams that show up in this, and they show up quite a few times.
I think Billy Joel likes baseball.
I think he likes New York. Next, we got Communist Bloc.
Just in general?
Surprisingly, not a neighborhood of New York.
Okay.
It's referring to the Eastern Bloc, a group of countries in Eastern Europe who align themselves with Russia. That'd be Albania, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and Yugoslavia. The Yugoslavia would be kicked out in 1948, and Albania withdrew in 1961.
And so many of those are renamed, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely like broken to pieces, renamed, kind
Yeah.
of torn apart. They were friendly in some ways. Other ways, you may think that they were just really just proxy states kind of controlled by the USSR at that time period.
Yeah. It's very confusing because like I've been looking into my ancestry and it's so confusing to track down because I have a lot of Eastern European ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
And like sometimes it'll say it's like this place, like it'll be Poland,
Yeah.
and then it'll be Ukraine,
Mhm.
and then it'll be Yugoslavia. It's because it's like it was just like it is the same city, but it was just
A lot of borders.
different. Yeah, it was just shifted into different countries depending on the time period. Armenia. It's just very confusing.
Roy Cohn.
I don't know that one.
Oh, he's a total piece of... Sorry. Stick with the facts. He was a lawyer during the McCarthy trials. Prosecutor. Trying to prove people are communists. He was the lawyer during the
good.
Rosenberg trial you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And after his lawyer term, he would go on to just kind of be kind of a political guy. Kind of a fixer maker, if you will.
Okay. So he's in hell?
Almost certainly, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I believe he also he has a lot of court cases that seem to tie to the mob. When I was looking into him, a lot of mob cases in like the 70s and stuff like that. Interesting. Also,
Like on the side of the mob or
yeah,
prosecuting?
no, sorry,
the
on
mob?
the side of the mob.
Oh, okay.
Also
okay.
helped Donald Trump. Moving on to Juan Perón, 29th president of Argentina.
Wow.
Only one to ever be elected to 3 terms. After his first 2 terms, he was exiled from Argentina in the 50s, though would come back 18 years later to take over again.
18 years.
Yeah, you know anything about
What?
Argentina in the 50s?
I
Or maybe post-World War II?
honestly don't. I know
No.
that South America has a lot of
Argentina
rough
specifically
politics.
had a very open, bring me your Nazis kind of thing going on.
Oh, is that why they went there?
And yeah, and then Juan
I
Perón was
thought they-
president that time period and kind of just let all the Nazis in that left
Oh,
Germany.
I thought they just went there because they were like, I don't know, it's warm.
No, they were allowed to come in. And,
Oh, I never
But
thought about
yeah.
that.
He's sort of popular, sort of not popular, hence getting expelled, and then came back when his party came back. It's a lot to unpack. It's kind of a crazy read. I would suggest. I mean, that alone has way too much to unpack here in a thing where we have to go over 119 things.
Yeah,
Good
that
read,
is
though.
interesting. It is interesting to like be dropped. Like your people hate you, and then you come back like 20 years later, and they're like, "Yeah, be our president again." That's wild.
Next up, Toscanini. Arturo Toscanini, Italian composer, died in 1957. First leader of the NBC Symphony Orchestra, starting in the 30s, which is probably why any American
Who
would
would
know
care?
this guy. Yeah,
I like the name
yeah,
Toscanini.
Toscanini's a fun name.
Yeah.
Dacron. Any guesses on what, who, how, what is Dacron?
Dacron sounds like industrial.
Yep,
So.
the PT or polyethylene terephthalate.
Oh, are you serious? It's a microplastic.
It's polyester. It's your plastic water bottle. It's Mylar. It's glitter. Well, it's not using glitter anymore. They stopped doing it like 2018 or so.
Yeah, because it's dangerous.
Maybe more relevant to Billy Joel's interest, especially here on the 1989 album Stormfront. It's what they make sailboat sails out of.
What does that have to do?
He likes boats.
Oh,
His album
The Downeaster
Stormfront.
Alexa.
Yeah, it's got very nautical theme. The album cover's got the Stormfront like nautical flag on the cover.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that definitely changed a lot
Yeah.
about our culture, I would say.
Dien Bien Phu Falls. Yes, not a waterfall. It's a place. It's a battle that ended the First Indochina War between the 13th of March and the 7th of May of 1954. That resulted in France pulling out of the area and effectively giving independence to Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia.
Wow. So it's good.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It definitely is.
It's the end of a war.
It's the end of a war and the start of a vacuum that would lead to a war we'll get to in about 10 more years. Yeah.
Destabilization.
Rock Around the Clock.
Rock Around the Clock.
Yes, the first rock single to top the charts in the US and the UK in 1955 for Bill Haley and the Comets.
Bop.
Bop.
Comet. The
Hail Bop?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not quite. Einstein.
Yeah, I
You know
know him.
Einstein. Everyone knows him.
He has
hair.
his tongue out.
Yep, died in 1955.
Rip.
Rip. James Dean.
Did he also die?
He sure did.
Rip.
Yep. Teen heartthrob actor.
And sausages.
That's Jimmy Dean. Yeah. Died at the age of 24.
Wow. Motorcycle, I would guess. He rides motorcycles.
It was a Porsche Spider.
Whoa.
I think the
A fancy
Eagles.
car.
They have a song about him, James Dean.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you can add that to one of your next list of songs.
Mentioned they become back. Brooklyn's got a winning team. Brooklyn
Baseball.
Dodgers win
Baseball.
the World Series. First time. First time they won the pennant. 1955.
Wow.
And I'm sure winning the pennant in 1955 would bring them a lot of prosperous years in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That's foreshadowing. Davy Crockett.
I know him.
Yeah, real person. Not alive in 1955.
Yeah. Correct.
Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier.
Yes.
Definitely probably referring to the TV show, maybe the movie that was just 3 episodes of the TV show.
Oh, okay.
Disney program.
Yeah.
Would started airing on a show that was called Disneyland in 1954. That would become its own standalone show,
Fun.
showcasing the adventures of Davy Crockett. I'm not sure how factual it is.
I mean, it's
Keeping
TV.
along the trend of Disney programming, next is Peter Pan.
Wow, Tinkerbell.
Tinkerbell. I understand this came out in 1953, so he's a little off on his timeline here, a tiny bit.
Oh.
But maybe it's the first time he saw it.
Okay.
Who knows? One for the money, 2 for the show. Next, Elvis Presley.
Okay.
You know Elvis, shaking them hips, changing music,
Changing
completely
women.
changing women. Too scandalous to be shown from the waist down on television.
Correct.
So shaking hips.
You know what? I have a controversial opinion.
Yeah.
I think that women serve an important role
Yeah.
in rock and roll history.
I think you're
Not just
definitely right.
not just obviously in musicianship, but in
Crazed fandom.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll get to another crazed female
Yep.
field fandom here in a little bit.
Yep.
I mentioned this about 3 bullet points away. Next thing he says after Elvis Presley is Disneyland. Opened in 1955, still around. Also, fun fact, I mentioned Davy Crockett, that show premiered on a TV show called Disneyland.
Yeah.
That's kind of a rebranded Disney's Wonderful World of Color. That was used as like a large publicity for the upcoming theme park.
I love old Disneyland with all the dirt and stuff,
Yeah,
like the horses.
yeah.
and
Like a Western lane, it's like really just
Just
ride
a
some
pile of
mules
dirt, yeah.
through
Just
some fake cactuses.
Yep. I love it.
Yeah. Bardo.
Bardo.
Yeah.
Bridget.
Yeah, going from Disneyland to Bridget Bardot.
I love her.
One for the adults. French actress and singer, as the kids would say, an absolute smoke show.
Oh yeah.
I got a Budapest, Hungary, for the Hungarian Revolution of 1956, which was an attempt to bring them out of Soviet control, out of that Russian bloc. It did not work.
I was thinking there's just so much like war.
Tons. Everything's like constantly breaking and falling
Like you
apart.
think there's a lot of war today, but like
No,
I
this-
don't know.
this blows it
That's
away,
like
I
a
think.
lot.
Yeah. Really, I mean, it's all fallout from either colonialism
War.
falling apart or the end of World War II.
Wow.
Well, we're coming back to the homeland here. Alabama is the next thing he mentions.
Okay.
Race
The band?
issues. No, not the band. This is probably specifically for the time period referencing the bus boycotts.
Yes.
Rosa Parks.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it
We're going
is.
back to Russia. Khrushchev. I mentioned we'd get to who took over after the other guy was there for a week. Head of the Soviet Union from 1953 to 1964.
It's a long time.
More than 1 week.
Yeah, it was.
Princess Grace.
I don't know who that is.
It was Grace Kelly. She was an actress.
Oh, Grace
And in
Kelly.
1956, she got married to the Prince of Monaco and effectively moved on from actressing to become a literal princess.
Wow. I hope it was nice for her.
Yeah.
I don't really know much.
It seemed like she enjoyed it.
That's good.
During her movie time, starring such films as High Noon and Dial M for Murder.
Oh, shoot.
Peyton Place.
I don't know.
It was a book from 1956 that followed a group of, I think, like 3 or so women in a small community and kind of all the scandals and drama surrounding, that small community has. A lot of tough
Okay.
stuff. Abuse, suicide,
So, normal small town stuff.
very small town stuff.
Okay.
Probably a template for a lot of the dramas we have even still to today.
Oh.
Very popular back then. It's spun out in TVs, movies, all types of stuff. I think there were book sequels.
It's like the Housewives.
Real Housewives, yeah. I mean, any of those, right? Like your
Yeah.
Desperate Housewives. This is like
it
the
kicked off
template
the
of-
drama. The
Yeah.
drama of
Yeah.
fascination.
Nothing's new.
Right.
Trouble
True.
in the Suez
The Suez Canal.
Canal. This is one of the things he mentioned to that kid when the kid's like, "Yeah, you had nothing happen to you in the 50s, did you, Mr. Joe?" He's like, "Don't you know about the Suez Canal, kid?" And the kid's like, "No."
Even
What?
though it was only
What?"
like 20 years
Yeah.
away.
Didn't
That's
have
funny.
the internet.
Yeah, but they got school.
Yeah, you paid
That's
attention to
America,
school.
though,
You had
yeah.
school too. What happened? Okay, what happened in the Suez, ma'am? What happened in 1956? Ish.
There was a canal
Yeah.
and the boats.
Uh-huh.
The boats were there.
The Ever Given got stuck sideways? No,
Yeah.
that was during COVID. Our president, Egyptian buddy Nasser, mentioned earlier, took government control over the canal, claiming this is ours,
That sounds like what we're about to do.
which was not very well received because the first thing he did was cut off any shipments going to Israel. As I mentioned before, he was very anti-Semitic. Both Britain and France are like, oh man, if he can do that, we should probably make sure that he can't cut off to us. So they decided to invade. And actually, the invasion by Britain and France was extremely successful from their standpoint, but it was extremely unpopular back in their homeland and facing extreme, kind of upheaval from their people. Britain pulled out, which then caused France to pull out. And Egypt said, hey, we won. Look how effective we are. It was a real weird one to read about. It was very confusing. It was very multi-sided war because it was Egypt versus Israel, Britain, and France.
Right,
And then
because it's important.
2 European ones left, and then kind of left Israel to deal with it. And Egypt's like, we won, but really it's because everybody else left.
They just had to wait.
Yeah.
Wait it out.
And you know what time it is again? Chorus time.
We didn't
Start the fire. But it's always burning. It's rolling on to Little Rock.
Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yeah.
More race stuff.
Moving up, 1957, Little Rock 9. 9 African-American students who would attend a previously all-white school. You've seen the pictures. The National Guard, the little girls getting
Yep.
escorted in. And a bunch of angry white people.
It's so crazy.
The audacity of the kid
And
wants
you
to
know
go to school.
what's crazier is she's very much still alive, obviously.
Yeah.
And she's not even that old. Isn't that wild?
She was a
She's
young
not
girl then.
even that old. She's a living person who's not even that old, who had to have bodyguards to enter a white school.
Yeah.
Ugh, so
Yeah.
crazy.
Pasternak.
More baseball?
Nope, this is an author.
No.
Go back to Russia again. Boris
Okay.
Pasternak. Russian author, writer of Dr. Zhivago in 1957. Nobel Prize winner for literature.
Okay.
Pulled straight off the Wikipedia article. The plot of Dr. Zhivago is long and intricate. It can be difficult to follow. But it seems to more or less be a story of the Russian Revolution.
Okay.
It was a very
A
intense
little
looking
abstract,
man. Look up
maybe.
Mr. Boris Pasternak got a very extreme face. He would die in 1960, so not long after the book would come out at the age of 70. How about that writing kind of a piece that still gets mentioned to today when you're 67 years old?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
He looks like David Byrne.
Yeah,
me.
except like slightly like longer jaw. Like the bottom
His
half
face
of his
is
head.
just longer, but
Yeah.
to me, it looks like David Byrne.
Mickey Mantle.
That one's a
As
baseball.
indeed a baseball player. This time not for the Dodgers. This one's for the Yankees.
Yep.
Had his best seasonal batting average in 1957, which is probably why he's here in our segment of history events that happened in 1957.
Okay.
Kerouac.
Jack.
Hey, Jack Kerouac. Author of On the Road, a quintessential beat novel that is more or less an autobiographical story of his travels with Neil Cassidy. Just with the names changed a little bit.
I've never read.
Me either.
It-
I think I own it.
I do too. I also think you own it.
Famously, he wrote this on like one giant ream of paper, like one roll.
Like a scroll?
Yeah, like on a
Wow.
typewriter. Yeah, like out there, it's still like a thing. Like the first kind of draft is just one big roll.
Where is it? In the
Probably museum
National
somewhere.
Museum.
Yeah. Moving on from Kerouac to Sputnik.
I know this one.
Okay.
The Sputnik
Mhm.
was a spacecraft.
Yeah, first man-made thing in space, October 4th, 1957. First man-made thing in space put there intentionally. You never know if we actually blew something up or who knows in the past. But
Right.
yes. Next we got Chow Un Lei. Is the first premier of the PCR. Served from 1904 to 1976 when he died. Considering 1957, because you'll notice he didn't die until 76 and didn't go into office until 49. So for 1957, he's mentioned here probably because it's the start of the Great Leap Forward.
What's that?
That was China's attempt to move from an agricultural society to an industrial one. That was a horrendous, just impact on their people. Just led to mass famine. Talking estimates that range from 15 million to 55 million people dying in China.
That's an awful lot.
Yeah.
I was looking because I recall the dog Laika being in the Sputnik.
I think
But-
Sputnik was yeah.
It was in the Sputnik 2,
Oh, the second one had a dog
which
in
was
it.
also in 1957, but in November. When
Wow.
is the first one?
October.
October,
October 4th.
November. I'll never forgive them.
Bridge on the River Kwai. Movie based on a book.
Okay.
It's definitely referring to the movie because it said it's chronological. World War II movie. It's said to consider to be one of the best of all time. Not just of World War II, but of any movie period. It's often
Is
on
it
lists.
it's a movie about World War II?
Set in there.
Oh.
Set in.
I'm telling you, once we get to the 70s, I might have
Yeah.
a little bit more to say, but so far I just don't know anything
Well,
about it.
spoiler alert here as we go on. He definitely front loads us a lot.
Oh,
Once we
okay.
get towards the 70s, he starts zipping one thing a year. Or else, if he kept the same density that he does in the first half of this song, this thing
Yeah.
would be 13 minutes long.
You should redo it.
Lebanon.
Yeah,
There's another
country.
one that comes up a lot more recently as a country. Why we shot him 1958? Because that is when an attempted revolution to get the country to join the United Arab Republic. It was a short-lived coalition of Egypt and Syria. That rebellion was quelled by the United States.
Of
5,000
course.
U.S. Marines went in and made sure that did not happen.
Yeah.
Charles de Gaulle. Elected French Prime Minister.
Okay.
He rewrote their constitution and was elected president. She held for about 10 years.
Rewrote the Constitution. Wow.
And came in, did a little fixing up of how things work in France. Had a sick hat. He was a military man similar to Eisenhower. Got one of those French hats with the kind of the round and tall. Because every picture you look up of him, quintessential French military man. Very different than U.S. ones.
I don't know.
How to spell Charles de Gaulle? I have no idea if that's how you pronounce it.
I'm
My
looking
French
this
is
up
bad.
because you asked me, but I also think it's stupid.
What is hat?
It's just
It's a
exactly
cool
what you
hat.
said. It's just
Yeah,
a
it's a cool hat.
circle.
California baseball. a fun line, isn't
Oh,
it?
so this is.
That's right. Welcome to Los Angeles, the Dodgers. If you recall, we just mentioned them not too many bullet points in the back for winning the World Series
In Brooklyn.
in Brooklyn. That's right. 2 years after they won the World Series or so, they would move to Los Angeles. Pretty much their owner was like, hey, we need a new stadium in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
To which the mayor's like, best we can do is put it in Queens. And he's like, all right, see ya. And they moved to LA.
It's crazy. And don't even get me started on sports stadiums. But very interesting. I wonder if they were sad. They probably were. 'cause it was
They bounced back
hype.
pretty fast, so they would end up winning the World Series again in 1959.
And they just won it last year.
Yep. They'll probably win it again.
Yeah.
Starkweather homicide.
Sounds dark.
This is a true crime thing showed up in here. We've had some war, some generals. We got Charles Starkweather and his 14-year-old girlfriend, Caroline Fugate,
Oh,
going
God.
across Nebraska
I do
in
remember
1958,
this. Yeah.
killing a bunch of people after killing her parents.
Yep.
They killed him in 1959. She would serve some jail time, though, is now out. Still alive.
She was
Living somewhere.
14, to be fair.
Yeah,
Her brain's not even developed yet.
true.
But, like, that's a spree killing.
Very much
If I
a spree
ever-
killing.
If I ever heard one.
You gotta be careful of those teenagers.
They're volatile. Like I said, their brain's not developed.
Children of thalidomide.
Thalidomide.
You have anxiety, lady? Trouble sleeping?
Me?
You
Yeah.
pregnant? Do you have
No.
morning sickness? You should try thalidomide.
Hmm.
That was kind of the
What
suggestion
is
at that
that?
time period. It'll help take away all your symptoms.
Does it kill
And
you?
it led to the biggest anthropogenic medical disaster ever, with more than 10,000 children born with major deformities.
Okay, so
So effectively, they made a drug that they're like, hey, this can take away some of the downsides of being pregnant, and it turns out it makes your baby really deformed.
deformed how? Do you know?
Oh yeah, like extra digits, like way like bowed out legging,
Displayed legs.
dead. But yeah, I mean, it's like tons of birth defects of
Wow.
horrible physical deformities.
Whoa.
And
That's
then they're like,
crazy.
yo, stop giving people that.
So it must have done something with the hormones.
Yeah. Buddy Holly,
Yep.
rock and roll.
Speaking of upstanding
The probably not
people.
for rock and rollers, probably referencing the day the music died in February of 1959, where he was in a plane crash that killed Richie Valens, Big Bopper, and himself.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah. I thought he married his cousin, but I think that is a
That'd be the Great Balls of Fire guy, I think is who you're thinking of.
yeah.
Yeah. Space Monk. Oh, we skipped one. Ben-Hur.
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 I know that one.
Oh, yeah, what is it then?
It's
Yeah, you're looking at my notes.
it's a
The
movie.
Yep. Set in Jerusalem, AD 26, following the titular Ben-Hur, played by Charlton Heston. Very epic movie, probably best known nowadays for its chariot race.
Is that the one that they just remade
I have no idea.
with Anthony anyways. No, probably
No,
not.
I don't think so.
But it was one of those movies, like a Roman style movie that was really big back then
Yeah.
that they just remade.
It features the crucifixion of Jesus in the movie. Space Monkey. This is referencing when we launched. You mentioned Laika getting launched into space.
By the way, it was Gladiator.
Wow. That's not really a remake. That was a sequel to a movie that's only like 20 years old.
I told you I'm not good at
Space
history.
Monkey. We would launch monkeys into space to try to see if we would be able to survive in space.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Now, here's
Pardon
the
my
fun
French.
fact. It was actually intended, unlike with the dog, to bring the monkeys back.
Yeah.
The first 2 monkeys we launched up died after coming back down.
That's interesting.
They died on the crash. Effectively, it was just too hard of an impact for the monkey, and they died. But by the time of the 3rd monkey, They started surviving.
Wow.
So a lot of the monkeys came back.
It still, like, sucks. Like, they should have thought, like, they're a bunch of very intelligent, smart scientists. They should have
Yeah.
done the physics test
Well, they
more
probably
in
did.
their
I mean,
brain.
it's tough to...
No, you know what? They didn't. And they just didn't care enough.
What if the monkey
my
did
opinion.
something inside of the spacecraft?
The monkey didn't do anything.
It
Do
drove
not
it too
blame
hard.
it. You are victim blaming, sir.
Now, as tempted as I was to just combine the two in the way he does in the song, where it's a Space Monkey Mafia, it is definitely two different things.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. I didn't find anything for Space Monkey Mafia. That said, as I mentioned, with the first couple monkeys dying on re-impact and, you know, one surviving afterward, I could see the rise of the monkeys to make a mafia against NASA.
That's true.
I couldn't find the evidence of that, though.
It
so he's
also-
probably referring to the mob.
It also would be such a good band name.
Space Monkey Mafia.
Yeah.
I'm sure it exists. So he's probably referring to the mob, which again, that's a very nebulous kind of topic.
Yeah.
Not even like a specific mob. In this case, though, since it is 1959 as chronological, there are some important mob events, including the arrest of Vito Genovese, assuming that's pronounced correctly. So
Aren't you
that's
Italian?
Probably. Moving along from something that's not the mafia, or probably really something worth of mentioning in his historical thing we did anyway, the hula hoop.
The hula hoop.
Whammo's plastic ring.
Uh-huh.
Cultural moment, I guess. Everybody's using the hula hoop.
Yeah, I think that also it's big, like, Polynesian influence time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it makes sense that it was a big deal back then because
Yeah.
everyone wanted to be like the Hawaiians.
How much that has impacted the repercussions of that South Pacific musical? Mentioned earlier in the
That's
song.
true. Yeah, I bet it was.
Probably is. Next up, Castro. Fidel Castro, president of Cuba, took office.
Oh.
Yeah, Cuba.
Justin Trudeau's dad.
Yeah. The Etzel is a no-go. That's right, he's putting a bit of a comment on something here, not just listing it.
What is that?
Etzel is a attempt by Ford to create a mid-tier car brand named after Henry Ford's kid. And it was not successful at all.
This kid's name was Etzel?
Yeah, with a D. Etzel.
Etzel. Must be like a Swiss name or something,
Who
I
knows?
guess. I thought it was like pretzel.
Now, you never know, it could be German with Henry Ford's support of the Nazis.
Oh my god.
But it was attempting a mid-car brand that was sort of hip and hop.
Right.
And it just didn't click.
The people didn't like it?
Yeah, this is a total marketing failure. Like, it just, nobody understood what it was or why they should get one. And it just didn't sell. Next up, U2.
The band?
Yes, no. Spy plane. Specifically in this case, referring to probably an incident where one of ours crashed into Russia.
Uh-oh.
So the
It's not
U2,
where they want to crash.
before we had satellites that, like, you know, take pictures and beam data down,
Right.
we had to fly planes over stuff and take pictures.
Yeah.
Which its own was kind of crazy to think about, right? You'd have this, like, high altitude plane with a camera on the bottom of it that would take a picture of things.
Yeah, probably like
crazy
take a
good
picture
zoom.
every second or something.
And so then they would fly over enemy territory and things and snap pictures, come back, land, have the pictures developed, and they would use that to determine where military bases and activity was, what kind of stuff they had going on. And then one of them crashed in Russia, and the U.S. was like, uh-oh, we lost one of our U-2s. So they went to like a general assembly and everything. You know, Russia and U.S. is there at this like kind of big world stage. And U.S. is like, hey, we lost a weather plane, you know, doing weather stuff, right, Russia? It was just our weather plane. And Russia's like, oh yeah? The plane didn't get that damaged, and your pilot survived. And the U.S. was like, oh. On his weather mission? And Russia's like, no, the camera equipment mostly survived as well, too. We know it's a spy plane. And it was a horribly embarrassing incident for the United States.
That's like now with the weather balloons.
Yeah, except
From
for
China.
Brazil. Yeah. Sigmund Rhee.
Sigmund Rhee?
Yep.
What is that?
He was the first president of South Korea.
Oh.
And he pushed to get rid of the two-term limit and won again in 1960.
Syngman Rhee.
Yep. The people, though, did not like that he did that to get that second term. And the CIA had to escape him out of Korea.
Like, kill him?
No,
or
like literally, like kind of
pick
took
him up.
and then he lived other days in Hawaii.
See, when you say the CIA take him out.
Well, yeah, took him out of Korea, not to death. We'll get to that though later with somebody else.
Oh God.
Payola. You ever heard of the term payola?
Have not.
Have not. It's a legal term. And payola is the act of paying a radio station to play your music without disclosing that you're being paid to play music, like specifically by like a label or an artist.
So it's like
So like
a bribe, kind of.
Yeah, like Sony comes in and says, "Hey, play this new single on your radio station. Here's $10,000. Play the crap out of this." And the radio station just plays that song a bunch.
Why payola?
I don't actually know why that's the legal term. I'm sure there's a good reason for it. It's fun to say. This is coming up here because at the end of the 50s, the U.S. government really started cracking down on it, going in and looking into it. Now, the interesting one is this payola and Kennedy. So you'd think maybe they're connected in some way in the song. I don't think so. I think he's just needed to fill an extra syllable.
There's an Oxford comma between payola and
Kennedy, JFK.
Yeah.
1960, he's going to be coming into office here. He's going to win the election at the end of the year. He will be showing up a couple more times. Spoiler alert. Kennedy.
Wait, but earlier he mentioned Marilyn Monroe, but she hadn't died yet, right?
She died in 50-something.
But I thought that she and JFK, you know.
I mean, I think he was a public figure before he was president.
But, like, didn't she sing that song, like, Happy Birthday, Mr. President?
Good point.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, Marilyn Monroe could be famous for a movie at that time period, too.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it's pretty established that 1962 is when she passed away.
So, maybe Burst on Scene, maybe a first movie or something at that time period.
What year was it?
I do not recall. It was early in the song, so it's early 50s.
Oh, okay. So maybe it was like her first real movie or something.
Next up, Chubby Checker. Come on, baby. Do the twist. And twist again.
Yep.
Because not only did you have one twist,
Yeah, gotta
that's
do
not
it
a
again.
success. You have to do it again.
And then everybody's gotta
Gotta
also
start
make
doing
their
the
own
twist.
version.
Making your own dance. We jump from the happy-go, like, fun times of Twist with Chubby Checker straight into Psycho. So next thing you listen to the song. Yes. One of the most iconic scenes ever in a movie, the shower scene of Psycho.
Ever, yeah.
Where the movie takes a crazy right turn. Up until that point, you think it's a movie about a lady just stealing money and being on the lam.
Exactly.
That takes a hard shift into murder.
It's wild. Like, we watched that not even that long ago. Maybe, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. And that movie still holds up.
Very much so.
Like, how many years? A lot of years later. 60 years?
65.
That's wild to think about. That, like, it's still in the ether. It still applies. It's still shocking,
Good
too.
story, great storytelling.
Great acting.
Yeah.
It's black and white, but it's still just, it's shot so well that, yeah. It's
Chubby
great.
Checker, Psycho, Belgians in the Congo. Congo's moving out from under control, from Belgian control into independence. And like so many other countries at this time, split into two factions.
Of course.
And guess what?
More
One's backed by the
war.
USSR, and the other was, well, backed by Belgium, of all people.
Yeah. I'm ignorant on histories,
So
but
a
I
lot of
didn't
these-
realize that.
Your Koreas, your Vietnams, your Congo, your giant chunks of the Middle East almost all seem to come back to, somebody taking control of that territory, losing control of that territory, and then that vacuum having issues deciding who should take control over it now.
Right.
This
And
is-
other countries coming in and
other countries being like,
influencing.
hey, I got interest in making sure we get more people on our side,
Yeah.
so I'm going to back this faction.
It's just like, stay out of their business.
Yeah.
a
We
little
didn't
bit.
start the fire. Back to the chorus again.
Okay.
But we're moving along. After he says we didn't start the fire a few more times, mentions Hemingway.
Ernest.
Ernest Hemingway.
Another gay.
Any guess? Well, I don't think so. Any guesses why he's showing up at this point in the song?
Wait, you're telling me Ernest Hemingway isn't gay?
Pretty sure he's married to a woman.
But he has so many cats.
Well,
And
you
he's
know.
so sensitive.
But he's also kind of a man's man. Like a
Am I
soldier.
being
hunter.
homophobic?
I think you are being-
Heterophobic?
Yeah, you are
Oh my
really.
God.
He committed suicide
Yeah.
in Ketchum, Idaho.
I know, yeah, he had like a really cool
Man known
cabin.
for living in tropical places, doing crazy stuff. Moved to Idaho and then killed himself. What to say
Wow.
about Idaho?
Do we know why?
Probably depression. I mean, I think he was a raging alcoholic.
He was very, very sensitive. I know that.
Eichmann. Any guesses? This is a wild story.
By the way,
Yeah.
he's not gay.
Oh, okay, great. Adolf Eichmann. Adolf might be a tip-off of who Eichmann is.
Yeah?
He was a Nazi.
Yeah.
Now, you may notice we're at least in 1960. Why are the Nazis showing up again?
15 years later?
That was because this man, who was a very high-ranking Nazi, was tried and sentenced to death by hanging in an extremely public trial in Israel in 1960.
Wow. That's actually
So
crazy.
at the end of the war in 1945, he was captured by the Americans but managed to escape and then proceeded to hide around Germany until about 1950 when he escaped to Argentina,
Okay. Yeah.
where he lived until 1960 when Mossad, the Israeli intelligence group, it's kind of like their equivalent of the CIA, found him in Argentina and smuggled him out of the country.
They just stole
They
him.
just straight up abducted this man and brought him to Israel,
That's crazy.
where they then proceeded to have an extremely, kind of, groundbreaking level of, televised trial.
Okay.
Effectively trying this man for his crimes against the Jews during World War
Against
II.
humanity.
And so this
reality.
huge thing everybody tuned into kind of saw and learned about, a lot of aspects of what really went on in World War II from this. Had a lot of witnesses they brought in, like Holocaust survivors, and it really shook kind of a narrative. Like before this, they refer to it as sort of this misconception of lambs to the slaughter was what the term was used. Or effectively a lot of people would say, oh, the Jews, they just went with it. They rolled with it.
Yeah.
But this trial really showcased that wasn't really the case.
right.
There was a lot
yeah.
it's really goofy. I mean, it's anti-Semitism, but this really helped shape that to no, they were literal victims of this whole thing.
That is so wild to think about. Like, he was literally stolen, in the middle
In
of
the
the
middle of the
night.
night, yeah.
By.
From literally as far away on the globe as you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And brought back to a country that was established as a safe haven for
Uh-huh.
Jewish people and then, publicly executed.
Yep.
I wonder, I bet it felt good.
Cathartic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that is so brutal. It's so, what do you say it? Like caveman-esque or whatever.
It's very,
Primal.
primally sort of.
Yeah, just
It's interesting to read about it. I mean, because as I mentioned, it's sort of a big thing, right? 1960, because the television is bigger at this point, and I talked about how that some U.S. firm had gotten the rights to be the only one to film it and stuff like that, and so
wow.
it would be the next day, they'd ship the tape back, and the next day, the court proceedings would be shown and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's sort of a template of what we see nowadays. Any big trial, live on TV, you gotta tune in and watch what's happening.
Yes.
This is sort of kind of a
The
template
first
of that.
of that. Wow.
And I've got Stranger in a Strange Land,
The movie?
a book.
The-
Robert Heinlein novel about a man born on Mars coming to Earth and really learning about our culture.
Interesting.
A lot of jabs at kind of societal norms, if you will. Heinlein said that his goal was to really kind of shake the reader's set perception of what is normal and make them think, is this really
right.
what it should be? It takes on the church, takes on sexuality, it takes on politics, because this man, in his perspective in the book, is from Mars. He's never seen all of this kind of things that they have for this corruption and stuff, and so he's seen all of it and being why are we doing it this way? Why is it like this? This is awful and things like that.
Yeah. It's like when you experience a different culture.
Mhm.
It's you think of it doesn't give a little bit of introspection of I do some weird shit
Yeah.
back home.
Mhm.
That these people would probably think is crazy.
I want to say the main character's name is Steve or something like that. And it was sort of as like a jab to all these sci-fi authors and stuff like that who make like characters with incomprehensible names.
Like Mormon Gold.
And so he's like, my Martian's name is Steve.
That's pretty funny.
And I've got Dylan.
Bob.
That's right, Robert Zimmerman. Bob Dylan. Poet, singer, guitarist, and harmonica enthusiast. I believe he's a Nobel Prize winner as well. Dylan also a hot topic again. Thanks for the
Yeah, I
movie.
was just going to say.
Yeah.
There was just a biopic that
This
came
at time
out.
is a flat circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's these like just comes and goes repeatedly. From Dylan, we moved to Berlin,
Okay.
Germany.
Yep.
What's that?
So-
Another place somehow tied to World War II, split in half.
Yeah,
Look at
literally
that.
a
And
little
things
bit.
weren't great because in 1961, the wall starts to go up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Trump is jealous.
yeah. They built a wall. It
They
lasted a long time.
built a
Then
literal
it came
wall.
down and was used as an example of why not to build walls.
Yeah.
Yeah. We learn. Bay of Pigs invasion. I told you Cuba would be coming back.
Yep.
Failed invasion of Cuba by Cuban exiles to overthrow Castro. Led by the United States, though, as I mentioned, we intentionally kept our soldiers out of it so it couldn't be traced back to us. Of course, it obviously could be. Gave them, training, tech, weapons, deployment, and it failed horribly, and is considered another national embarrassment for the United States.
We have a lot of those.
Yeah, I know that there's a musician of the time by the name of Red River Dave, who would write a lot of kind of what you call a novelty song about current events, and he has one about Bay of Pigs. Go check that out. Lawrence of Arabia.
Lawrence. Huh?
Yep. 1962 movie based on the 1926 book by Stephen Pillars, called Seven Pillars of Wisdom, about T.E. Lawrence, real man, a British man who helped support the Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire during World War I.
Probably rich. I think world travelers
Yeah.
of
Well,
Jan
he was a
are
soldier.
rich. Oh, he was a soldier.
So it's definitely like the Brits sending people in to help lead the Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire.
Oh, I thought he was just like
No.
a rich guy that's like, you know what? Why are you guys treated like this? Let's start a war.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what he's doing, but effectively in the sense of, for England.
Yeah.
More James Bond, less some sort of philanthropist you're
Right.
suggesting. And probably is my favorite rhyming song from Lawrence of Arabia, British Beatlemania.
Okay.
You mentioned girl power.
Yeah.
There's your Beatlemania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like, we'll get this out of the way.
Mhm.
The Beatles are goated. Like,
Yeah.
you can't be like, oh, they're overrated. They suck. They don't suck. You're
No.
just wrong. You're just wrong. But I also really do think that there's a strong, I guess, line between, like, how big they were or would have been
Mhm.
and how big they got due to teenage girls. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's definitely
oh
what
my
caused
God.
that Beatlemania, right? That kind of that
Yes.
raging, like, oh, they're the coolest thing around. They're the hippest, hottest
They worshiped
thing.
them.
Yeah.
And I think without that, it wouldn't have quite been as huge as they are. So thank you, women.
Probably also like the craziest shift of music from like the beginning of a career to like the end of it. That also like in like short time, like
Lasted
such like
7 years?
5 years I think from the debut to the last one or so,
Wow.
5-6 years, and just that like insane change in music, style and recording and all of that.
Yeah.
Ole Miss.
Mississippi.
Yeah, University of Mississippi. So no, this is not war in the Middle East. No, we're going back to the United States. Second half of 1962 with another race riot, unsurprisingly, since we're in the South in the 60s. James H. Meredith, who was a United States veteran, was admitted into the University of Mississippi. That was until they figured out that he was black.
My God.
So which they said, no, sorry, you can't come in. The United States government said, yes, he can.
Right.
So then he went back into the school, to be like, hey, I'm getting admitted. And when he showed up, nobody was there. So So he went back, talked to the Fed again. He's like, hey, they're not letting me in. I don't really know what's happening. They're like, all right, reopen it. So he goes down there, and this time the governor's in his way. Like, the literal governor of Mississippi is showing up with, like, people will be like, you can't come into the school.
So gross.
And this kind of went back and forth a few times, and then it busted into a 2-day riot. 2 people died, and it took 3,000 National Guards to get everything under control.
That's crazy.
He would ultimately start classes the next day and graduate.
I mean, good for him
Yeah.
for,
He
continuing.
graduated the next year. He was a transfer student.
Yeah.
Bafflingly, since he was accepted to the school, he's transferred from an all-black college. So I don't know how they didn't know he was black when he first got accepted. So that's kind of strange. But hey, they figured it out. And he's still alive.
It's so crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And then anyways, but I'm glad that it's slightly better now.
Yeah.
But
John Glenn,
Singer?
astronaut.
Damn it.
First American
Sorry.
to orbit the Earth on February 20th, 1962.
Wow.
War vet pilot, unsurprisingly.
You think he was scared?
I don't know. Some of those pilots, especially back then, it's kind of, they're just maybe on like the crazy end of the...
Oh yeah, like
Suicidal,
there's something in his
adrenaline
brain
junkie,
that
yeah.
doesn't recognize danger.
Yeah. And he'd also become a senator.
Just like that other guy
Yeah, he would serve in Ohio for 25 years.
in Arizona.
Yeah, the new one.
Yes.
Yeah. Bald guy.
Yes.
Liston beats Patterson.
What?
That's the next one. Liston beats Patterson. Heavyweight boxing
again?
title
Okay,
fight.
yeah.
Yep. That's right. He loves baseball and he loves boxing.
Yep.
Liston won with a knockout in round 1. The fight lasted barely 2 minutes. You can watch it. It's on YouTube. Very short. Very one-sided. But it's very hyped. In fact, like the heavyweight title had kind of been handed off to Patterson. He seemed to be kind of a favorite. Like, people seemed to like him. And Liston came up and just destroyed him. They would have a rematch the next year, and it would come out to be exactly the same. I think it was 4 seconds longer the second time. But still a round 1 knockout.
Dang.
Pope
sucks.
Paul.
Pope.
Yep. Pope Paul VI, original name Giovanni Battista Enrico Antonio Maria Mantoni.
Wow.
Italian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would guess.
Malcolm X, next person listed.
Yep.
Black revolutionary, much more radical than MLK.
Yes.
Tied to the Nation of Islam, had a very strong kind of, instead of, we shall come together, dream as one, we are separate. And at times, the white man will fall. It's kind of more of his sort of stance.
Yeah, I think it would be, in my opinion, I think it's just very hard to be treated like that and not become radicalized. So,
He had a very strong sense of beliefs, though. He actually ended up breaking his stances with the Nation of Islam because they weren't strong enough. When there were riots in L.A., they didn't condone it enough to his tone. And one of the members of the Nation of Islam was involved in like a sex scandal, like an abuse scandal. And he drew the line. He's like, that's not appropriate. He was very strict with his beliefs, extremely
that's kind of incredible.
strong. He was very, extremely self-willed. Those people like that, the Fed, would go after like MLK,
Yeah.
stuff like that, like find things. When they did try the Malcolm X, he was just not.
Just want to
He's
work.
just so, rigid soldier mindseted of don't do this, don't do that. That
Right.
there's nothing really to grab on him.
Yeah.
And this was a fun one to look into that I found extremely complicated is a British politician's sex, which sounds like the worst, pornography film of all time. It was actually a scandal. And
Okay.
my
I would guess
goodness, this is like, nothing happens in a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
This is like the centerpiece of British politics of like a 20-year span.
Really?
Very, important to history, as they say, but not something they teach you in school. Involving one married 46-year-old Secretary of State for War, I'm not really sure what that would equate to in the United States, named John Profumo, and one 19-year-old model named Christine Keeler. They had an affair at a time when there had been a lot of scandals already rocking the current government, where they were like, if anything else happens, that's it. And lo and behold, this idiot's off doing stuff with a model, very young.
Yeah, it's gross.
And the
Not
prime
gonna lie.
minister had to resign pretty much. It was like, the party's out of control, you can't control it. And then in 1964, the parties would swap. The Conservatives would lose, and Labor would take over. And this is pointed at as kind of the reason for that flop.
That's wild.
Some say then that flop, which would then put Labor and Party, would eventually lead to them getting viewed negatively, which would then lead to Margaret Thatcher coming in the 70s. So some people say this dude's political sex scandal is what caused
Thatcher
to come in. And this was a scandal that was tied to like another sex scandal. It was like a gay sex scandal involving like some like Russian information thing. It was wild. It's a whole thing going on in Britain in the 60s. I had a very hard time actually kind of picking it out. But this specific one,
It's like the catalyst
it
kind
was
of.
it was
The
it's
straw
the
that
final
broke
straw
it,
that
yeah.
broke the government's back.
Wow. And also
Um,
gross.
Yeah.
Boo.
JFK blown away. What else do I have
Oh
to
my
say?
god. That's bad.
That's it. What else do I say? He says right there. We didn't start the fire.
How can he? How? I can't believe he wrote that in.
JFK?
Yeah.
You mean? It's huge. The biggest event of
Yeah,
maybe
but
ever.
I was like, don't word it like that.
Blown
you know?
away. On TV, everyone's seen it. That's
I
crazy,
know,
right?
that's
That
gnarly.
everybody's seen video footage of some dude's head getting blown off.
I've
That's
seen
pretty
it.
wild.
It's wild.
Again, I believe Red River Dave, I mentioned earlier, has one of
About.
JFK getting assassinated as well. Other songs. So
Assassination.
there'd be one other weird time capsule of thinking that today's internet's the only thing that makes parodies and weird novelty garbage.
It has to
always
be,
been like that.
one of the most important events of
Yeah.
at least modern American history.
Oh, for sure.
Traumatic.
Mm-hmm. No, we didn't light it, but we tried to fight it. Moving on. Birth control.
He just says birth
He
control?
sure does. Because the pill would come into the public consumption.
Yeah.
In the 60s.
Yeah.
And that is what he's referencing there. Strangely, it seemed to have slight medical uses before being assigned for birth control.
Yeah, because it's hormones.
Yeah.
So it's like,
But then once they figured out it worked for that, that's when it became
yeah,
big.
right.
Ho Chi Minh,
Okay.
Vietnamese
This is
leader,
when the Vietnamese
first
stuff
president of the
starts.
Democratic Republic of Vietnam that would die before the end of the Vietnam War. Still considered this day to be quite popular in Vietnam. Which I found his name very interesting. Translators they refer to him as Uncle Ho, which is Bok Ho. They refer to him as Uncle Ho, the bringer of light.
Aw.
Because that's his name. Actually, that's a straight up.
The
Chi Minh
direct
means bringer of light.
translation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Richard Nixon back again.
Hello,
Told you'd come
Dick.
back. So the first time Nixon ran for president against JFK
Yes.
in what was, I think, the first televised
The
debate
Yeah.
in
yeah.
which JFK, young, attractive, very articulate, dominated, whereas Nixon was nasty and sweaty on TV.
He
He was sweaty, kind of grumbled.
he's a
like
very
that.
grumpy old guy, and yeah, as you said, JFK was hot as hell.
Yeah, we were in
So-
1968. Nixon wins.
Wait, you know how like all the women,
Mm.
like how I was talking about the music,
Yeah.
how they were like getting hornier maybe,
Yeah,
and that
that's what
maybe
pushed-
is part of
Pushed
it.
JFK over Nixon.
Yeah.
They say that attractiveness accounts for about 6% boost
of
to
a
your election results.
likability.
Yeah.
Wow.
Moonshot.
Wait. But Donald Trump,
No.
he's
I
ugly.
think there's a level to it, right? Like, so when you're at the presidential level, more modernly at least, it probably doesn't matter as much. Because I think the attractiveness is sort of, you just look at the picture and be like, oh, I don't know. But like, we live in such a 24-hour news cycle of constantly having to hear about people.
Yeah.
I think it stops working. But I think in a lot of
Okay.
the sort of like down ticket stuff, we don't really care. See their picture in
Yeah.
the booklet, and you're like, I don't like the way he looks.
For me, yeah, it's also the names.
That's what they point to, is actually like Nixon on TV looking so bad, and, like disheveled in the debate
Interesting.
that they're like, dude, that guy's not very presidential.
He's probably so nervous.
Oh, I'm sure. Moonshot.
Moonshot.
Moonshot's next thing they mention the song.
What is that?
It's an expression meaning something that's nearly impossible to do that stems from going to the moon.
Right.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, while that is most of the time considered to be the origin of the phrase,
Oh, I
Tied to
just
Apollo
thought of what
11
I think you're about to say.
moonshot, Some people say that it actually started being used in 1959 by Dodgers broadcaster Vin Scully, referring to homers that had hit by Wally Moon. Now, why is that extra important, I think, to this? Because Billy Joel loves baseball. And
Right.
He's already mentioned the Dodgers like 3 or 4 times.
But it wasn't the same year.
No, but
Maybe it was
Neither
like a
really.
mix. But I thought you were going to say moonshot. Like, they shot.
they shot the moon? No,
meaning
this is referencing us laying down the moon.
No. You don't understand what I'm saying. They shot the moon.
Oh, you're saying
Like,
fake landing.
filmography.
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
Hollywood, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe Billy Joel doesn't
Billy Joel
believe we
suggested
landed on
go
the
to
moon.
and get shot in a sound studio. It's possible. Woodstock. As mentioned, we're moving pretty fast now. We're going to the 1969
Yeah,
Music
that's
Festival in
New York.
Watergate. Jumping ahead again. 1972. Scandal surrounding Nixon. What do you know about Watergate?
Well, I used to think it was literally about like a dam until
Yeah.
I told you I like to think about other things, not old politics most of the time. But I actually know, yeah, it's like some sort of financial scandal,
No.
right?
Uh,
It's not a financial
no,
scandal.
it's actually the spying scandal. The Republicans would break into the Democratic election headquarters at the Watergate Hotel and
my
bug their
God.
offices.
I told you, I'm so oblivious.
The Watergate Hotel, part of the Watergate complex and luxurious, beautiful Foggy Bottom neighborhood of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's right, we have a section in D.C. called
Foggy Bottom.
Outbreak.
I like that.
Following Nixon, we jump ahead quite a few years. Punk rock.
Wait, you didn't tell me the fallout.
Nixon would resign in 1974.
But was it his fault?
I'm sure he was involved in it. I mean, they played a whole bunch of tapes. Go with the tapes.
All right, I'll go.
He said some
I'll go
horrendous
sit
stuff
here
on
and
some of
listen
those
to it.
tapes.
Like mean?
Incredibly racist things.
Oh,
yeah, it's
God.
great. Yeah, 'cause Nixon recorded everything for some reason.
Oh, weird.
Punk rock. Hey ho, let's go.
The Ramones.
The Ramones.
Who are
New York.
from New York.
Yeah. Begin.
Huh?
That's right. The next one is on paper the word begin, but he's referring to Menachem Begin, Prime Minister of Israel
Okay.
at the time period, that managed to get peace between them and Egypt, who showed up a few times, which was
Yeah.
quite the feat, because as I mentioned, leader of Egypt at the time,
Racist?
very racist against the Israelites.
Yeah.
He managed to actually get a Nobel Peace Prize for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Good on him.
Reagan, again, jumping ahead, 1980, Ronald Reagan becomes president of the United
Boo.
States. Actor, California governor, El Presidente.
He was a Hollywood actor.
And I mentioned, as I said before, we're zipping. We're like
And-
4 in, and we've gone from 1969
yeah.
to 1980 already.
Right.
Yeah,
Cheerleader.
cheerleader.
Wasn't he a cheerleader? Him and George Bush
That
were
sounds
cheerleaders.
right, yeah. I think
And
I've heard that
he was
before.
also a Hollywood actor. And he also homophobic.
He liked jelly beans. There's a humanizing trait about jelly beans. Palestine. Officially
Yeah.
recognized as a country in 1988.
Weird, because I've heard a lot of people say it's not actually a real place.
Not recognized by every country.
Yeah.
Terror on the airlines. Oh boy. You want to talk about a topic? So as I mentioned, this has been a very loose time period he's in right now at this end of the song. He's just kind of yelling out a bunch of stuff that happened.
Yeah.
Though I found a really good one. So when I put in Terror in the Airline to see if anything very specifically has that moniker, I didn't find anything that actually has that moniker. But I'm pretty sure he's referencing a case on June 14th of 1985, the hijacking of TWA Flight 847, in which a plane going from Athens to Rome was hijacked by Lebanese, what is it called, terrorists?
Pirates.
No, I mean they were full-on terrorists
Okay.
demanding release of Lebanese prisoners held by Israel.
Oh.
They had other demands. They wanted like 500 prisoners released. They wanted Israel and U.S. to be denounced on the public like scale. They had a whole bunch of stuff. First, these guys like took over this plane. They had a bunch of grenades and handguns
Ugh.
and flew this plane back and forth between Beirut and Algiers like 3 times, while demanding all of this.
Uh-huh.
They did eventually, after a couple of weeks, let every still alive prisoner go after they had some of their demands met. Though one of the most famous scenes of it, they shot and killed a U.S. Navy diver who was on the plane. Like they had him like the door of the plane, shot him in the head, and just chucked him out.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nasty.
It's older than they escaped the hijackers because they'd taken the plane out first, so to go and took it back to their area, and so they just got away.
They just ran off.
Yeah.
No,
One of them would be
didn't.
caught in 1987 trying to board a plane in Germany with a bag full of explosives.
They were trying to do it again.
Yeah, and another two would be the other two suspected hijackers would be added to our list of after 9/11 where we had like our most
Yes.
wanted terrorists like
Yeah.
playing cards.
Like a list.
They would be added to that.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's so wild. And like, yeah, it's, I mean, I know this is the point of the song, but it's very much like, what is change? You know, like
Nothing.
we still have issues in the
Absolutely
Middle
nothing.
East, like crazy.
Yeah. Don't worry, we're in the 80s, so Middle East is very big.
Yeah.
Ayatollahs in Iran. Ayatollah is like a title, like a religious leader, specifically in a state capacity. It's not like the Pope, who's like the head of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Ayatollah is like if you're like religious and a president, kind of.
Oh, so like the actual, like if the Pope
If the
actually
Pope like took over Italy
did
one
policy.
day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh.
Russians in Afghanistan. So before we made it cool in the 90s and 2000s, the Russians tried to take over Afghanistan, more or less, in the 80s. Effectively, they wanted to make sure Afghanistan remained friendly to Russian interests since they share a border.
God.
And so it led to a very humorous situation if you look at it from today's perspective. Obviously, if you lived through it,
Scary, probably.
well, yeah, but it's probably well known where the U.S. backed the terrorists of Afghanistan to fight against the Russians.
Yeah.
So we supplied all these Russian terrorists with guns and funding to fight the Russians,
And
and then they flipped on
it
us.
was a
and, like,
little
decade
bit of
later.
a oopsie.
Yeah. Continuing his like sort of what I would call him like a yin yang of topics, right? Because there's no real like one flow. You just go straight from Russians in Afghanistan to Wheel of Fortune. Which I feel like is sort of like the hula hoop of like, man, you're like going so fast that the years you go Wheel of Fortune.
Was it actually created in
The 80s,
whatever
yeah, probably,
time
I don't
period? Hmm.
I didn't really bother look. It's the Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah.
You know Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, I know Will Fortune.
Dana White flipping on tiles.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
E. Sally Ride. Talk about a great name, huh?
It is very
Female
iconic.
astronaut.
Mm-hmm.
With a name like that, I feel like you were destined to do something cool and end up in the history books that almost certainly involves speed. Be it
Or like
sort of-
politics.
Yeah. No, I didn't look too deep. A lot of astronauts get into politics. Don't know if she did. She's also the youngest person to go to space at the age of 32.
32 is the youngest?
Yeah.
Still?
That's hard to tell.
Whoa.
And her middle name was Kristen.
Why?
Felt like a weird middle name,
Oh,
right?
interesting.
Sally Kristen Ride.
Sally Ride's better.
Sally Ride's way better. That's a terrible one for the middle name. After that, I felt up with heavy metal suicide. You got any guesses?
I have many guesses.
Yeah, so
yes.
there's a big thing in the 80s where people were convinced, before you'd hear, oh, they're tainting our youth with music. This time they were just straight up like, heavy metal is convincing my kid to kill themselves.
Yes.
And they'd point to things like Ozzy Osbourne's Suicide Solution. I don't remember the Judas Priest song that talks about killing yourself or something.
Yeah.
But it led to actual lawsuits, like they'd go to court and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
It's very much like the demonization of
metal,
metal,
right?
or
I mean, it's one of those
even
things
heavy
too, where you
rock,
look at
yeah.
like suicide is sort of. You look at old media; it's in it all the time.
Yeah.
Like tons of cartoons would sort of have that as like punchline, like "Oh, stock market crash, better jump out the window."
Yeah.
And that'd be like the punchline of a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Totally.
Uh,
I find it funny.
Cheap Trick mentions suicide a ton in their lyrics.
Yeah, they do.
But metal was scary.
That's the thing is like yeah, like there's pop songs that mention suicide or like hurting others, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, they don't care about that.
No.
It's just because they think that it's demonic,
Now
which
metal's
it's
kind of
not.
demonic, you know. Ozzy and Judas Priest really leading your kid down the way to Satan.
We'll probably do a whole separate episode on that.
Foreign debts.
Okay.
There's another complicated bit of history that they don't really teach you in schools that much. But effectively in like the 70s, oil became like found and led to a lot of money in South and like Central America. And with oil comes money, and when there's money and oil, guess who shows up? The United States.
Yeah.
And so the
We
United States
do.
Bank were like, hey, that's a lot of money down there. Let me just show up. You guys want some loans? You know, when you got money, you don't spend your own money. You take out loans. And then, you know, you don't have to actually, like, spend your money. You use our money. And so all of these countries, including, like, Mexico and, you know, probably Argentina and stuff like that, took out a bunch of loans, billions and billions of dollars from U.S. banks. And then by, like, 1981, the first domino started to fall in the form of Mexico. It was like, hey, I can't pay this back.
Oh, God.
And then the U.S. is like, what do you mean you can't pay that back? We've loaned you billions of dollars. And they're like, Donald will tell you, I'm not going to be able to pay back. We're going to default on this loan. And, yeah, it wasn't good.
Well,
So effectively, we were out billions of dollars. We had to, like, kind of make new agreements with them. And luckily, the
Yeah.
banks learned their lessons, and they've never done anything dumb like that ever again.
never,
That would potentially
ever.
collapse the economy.
The U.S. is definitely not in trillions of
Yeah.
trillions of debt today.
Homeless vets.
Yeah, that sounds modern too.
Yeah, bad economy, bad systems in place to help veterans, leading to a lot of them on the streets, mental health issues that weren't being treated.
But again, it's the exact same today.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, as I said, times half of these is the same thing. AIDS show up
God.
on the scene. Terrible new disease. that
Speaking
nobody
of
understood.
Reagan,
Yeah. You know, what more to say about it? It's a more recent one, like some of these on here.
yeah,
It's kind of an unknown disease. Like, people didn't know it was even happening. It didn't help that it took a little bit for it to start taking effect on you.
right, yeah,
So it
you
showed
can
no
live for a long
signs in like
time.
the beginning if you had it, and it sort of led to like a fear. People are like, "Oh, it's only amongst the gay community."
Exactly.
And then straight people were dying, and babies were dying, and moms were dying, and they didn't know how it transmitted.
Yeah,
Terrifying.
but the bad thing about it is they didn't care because they thought that it was, you know, isolated to homosexuals who they demonized.
Oh, you can find some wild quotes from people that are considered cool still by today's standards.
Yeah.
Saying some awful things in regards to this.
Yeah, and it just killed millions. But the I guess bright side is today we actually have a vaccine for AIDS
That's true.
now that you can take
Progress.
once a year to prevent yourself from AIDS.
Crack. That's the next thing. AIDS, crack. That he leads right into. So what if they took the typically associated kind of rich people party drug, cocaine, and found a way to make it cheaper
Yeah.
and sold it in the inner city to the poor folks?
Yeah, crack.
You know, and the government, it's true, look it up, found that they could sell crack
Oh my god.
to the inner city for money to fund South American CIA operations.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That's so crazy. They're like,
Um,
we won't tax the rich, but you know what we will do? We'll create a drug epidemic among
Yeah,
the poor
it's a wild one to
people.
look at. Like you talk, and then they would, you know, it led to like crime because it was like rampant, crazily addictive,
Yeah.
cheaper than cocaine. Strangely, the criminal offense was higher for crack than it was for cocaine, even
Oh
though crack
my
itself was actually
freaking
technically
God.
like, you know, since it's thinned out, it's less effective than cocaine.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's pretty wild.
And
Terrible,
and less
time.
money, right? Because cocaine probably has more, or like obviously costs more,
Yeah,
so there's less
Yeah, so there's probably more money.
money
yeah.
involved in cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Bernie Getz.
I'm not familiar.
It's a bit of a loaded one. There's a lot of opinions with this, but
Okay.
one, Bernie Getz shot 4 people on a New York subway train,
Sounds
claiming
bad.
that they were trying to rob him. Bernie Getz,
Were the people he shot black?
yes, they were black
Yep,
teenagers.
okay.
Yep. Bernie Getz is a white 30-year-old man who said that, according to him, they came up to him, 2 of the 4, saying, "Hey, can I have $5?" And then his response was, "Blam, blam, 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 blam," as he unloaded into them.
Wait,
and shot
that's
them.
what he said happened?
And the witnesses, there were other witnesses on that train that said that they came up to him, asked him for $5, maybe too aggressively,
Yeah.
and his response was just to shoot them.
Kill them all.
Yeah. In his own words, Getz said, quote, "My intention was to murder them, to hurt them, and to make them suffer as much as possible." Getz also said that after firing 4 shots, he moved up to KB and said, "You seem to be doing all right. Here's another," and then shot him again.
Jesus Christ. He's a literal demon. What do you mean it's controversial?
Later, in his interview with the police, he said, "If I had more bullets, I would have shot them all again and again. My problem was that I ran out of bullets." He added, I was gonna gouge one of the guy's eyes out with my keys afterward, but said that he stopped when he saw the fear in his eyes. He denied that he had any premeditation to the shooting, something that had been speculated on by the press.
What?
Yeah, but don't worry, Emerald. He was acquitted of all 4 counts of murder.
No.
And served like 6 months for illegal possession of a firearm because he wasn't allowed to have a gun because he had assaulted black teenagers on the path on the subway in New York.
You're joking.
No, and it was a huge issue. I mean, because at the time, this is sort of one of those things. How would I put this? Where there was a huge crime problem. Like, inner city was viewed as like just crime mecca 101. It kind of was.
Okay.
So the public opinion was that the inner city is just a roving gang of problems.
And it's all the black people's fault.
Yeah. And so he happened to come in, defend himself. It's one of the things, right? Because like the public perception is that it is all crime. As I said, it kind of was. Like, it was really run down and it was scuzzy.
Yeah.
It just happens to be that I think in this case, this was just the public opinion willing things to happen with the worst possible way.
That's actually crazy.
Because you read things from the time period. I was reading like kind of like what are the takes on this.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of like even like civil rights groups who are like, yeah, the inner city's got problems, and this is sort of like, Gates probably was attacked. Now it's pretty wild.
Oh my god.
But he seems like a horrendous person. I mean,
That's
I saw
what
him
I'm
publicly
saying,
using
like-
the N-word in some interviews.
But like I'm saying that even if he was attacked, he basically said like he wanted to kill them all and like mutilate them.
Yeah.
Like gouge their eyes
Yeah.
out. He very obviously wanted to murder these
Yeah,
people.
it's of the time. Like, it's...
That's not
Yeah.
self-defense at all.
No, not really.
That's so gross. Like, that's literally making my blood boil.
It's a crazy story to look into.
And you know what's sad is, like, I feel like I've heard this story before, but it's not this one.
Yeah.
Like, this has happened so many times that it's
Yeah.
like, God, how gross. Is he dead yet?
I don't know.
What's his name? I gotta find out. So I can
Bernie
sleep
Getz.
tonight.
I almost said Matt Getz, but that's Matt Gates.
It's a different guy.
Yeah, I mean, because like they were able to paint them as bad, right? Because they were youths who were allegedly, I mean, but they were on the way to go rob an arcade. They're gonna go bust open like the quarter trays and arcade machines to steal the quarters out of them. Because Matt Gates said that they had threatened him with a screwdriver, but it was revealed that they hadn't actually pulled the screwdrivers out of their pockets or anything.
Oh, I have great news.
He's dead.
He died March 24th, 2024.
Probably like lived
He
a really
just
long time.
died last year. Why do these horrible humans always live?
They say
so
that
long?
if you, like you can live forever on spite, like anger.
Oh
Or
my
like
god.
jerky. Yeah, it's a
Well, I know
depressing and scary story.
he's very much looking up at us right now.
Yeah. How about to another very different kind of horrifying story, and that's hypodermics on the shore. Village has got some good ones here in the late 80s, in all honesty. So between the years of 1987 and 1988, there were just tons and tons of medical waste washing up on the New Jersey shoreline that was
What the
forcing
hell?
beaches to close and tourism to decline. It's like the worst fears in the movie Jaws, you know, where they're like, we can't close down the beach.
Yeah.
It's
right.
July 4th weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
Except instead of a shark, it's a bunch of needles and
What the hell?
biohazards.
Like body parts.
Which then led to a massive investigation of why is all of this medical waste washing up on our shore. And they traced it back to a landfill that was dumping into the river.
Oh my god.
Yes, the maybe ironically named Fresh Kills Landfill in Staten Island
What the hell?
was having a bit of a runoff problem because it was positioned right next to a river that was just dumping into the ocean
Oh my god.
and washing up on the New Jersey shoreline.
So like
I learned kills is coming from the Dutch word that means riverbed. Luckily, so it's not like fresh killed landfill where we dump
gonna
all the
say,
dead
what
from the
does that
hospital.
even mean?
But so it's probably like fresh kills or something Dutch. I don't know.
I feel like that's another really good band name. Fresh Kills.
But man, what a
That's
no,
wild.
'cause you hear the fun version of the story where like Garfield phones keep washing up on the shore due to some tanker that fell off back in the 80s or whatever.
Right.
This was needles of
It's
from the
like
hospital.
bags of blood.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Only a few more to go. We got China under martial law.
All right.
this-
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. This is the Tiananmen Square incident.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Another
It was a
crime
bunch of
against
protesters
humanity.
in China peacefully protesting were run over and shot.
You know that actually didn't happen according to China.
Yeah. Sorry, podcast. I guess we just got kicked out of a country. for mentioning
Yeah,
that one.
absolutely. Because it literally did not happen.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to talk about it.
So you mentioned this earlier, and it's really the last one on here. Rock and Roller Cola Wars.
Oh yeah, I mentioned this before
Yeah,
because
it sounds like
it's my
two
favorite
things,
part.
but this is actually one thing. Rock and rollers and wrestling is like rock and roll. He seems to be combining the Cola Wars, which were extreme ad campaigns of Pepsi and Coke kind of going against each other.
Oh
They're
right.
claiming one is just superior to the other, which they're introducing, a whole bunch of new things like the new Coke, Diet Coke, Pepsi, and which they're also bringing in celebrity guests.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the two big ones, kind of the juxtapose of the time period of what was going on. In the Coke corner, we have Paula Abdul showing up and singing songs for Coca-Cola in their ads. And in the I can't even fathom how much money that cost side, Pepsi had Michael Jackson.
That's crazy.
Michael Jackson, mind you.
Yeah,
In
right.
the late 80s, Michael
yeah.
Jackson. Where he not only were able to license his music, they got him to write a new song for them.
Wow.
Michael Jackson.
What was the song? Do you know?
I actually don't.
I'll have to listen to it.
But probably more actually important in this than really the lasting impacts of Paula Abdul's effect on the market share of Coca-Cola or Michael Jackson's on Pepsi
Yeah.
was that Michael Jackson caught on fire while shooting a Pepsi commercial
Oh my God.
that caused some terrible burns and is pointed at as the thing that led to all of his plastic surgery.
That made him white.
That maybe made him
changed
white
his-
and changed his face.
And
That would lead to his kind
wow.
of his like plastic surgery addiction, probably a
Man.
painkiller addiction.
I hope he sued the shit
Yeah.
out of him.
Not to how much money he's already getting paid. And now these weren't the only ones. Let's take a look at the other shills
Oh,
of the time period.
but like,
Oh,
by
yeah.
the way,
Yeah.
Coke won.
Oh,
They're
Coke
number
definitely
one.
won. They're definitely.
They're
I just
number
saw-
one, and you know who's number two?
Who's number two? Who's number two on the soda
Dr.
world?
Pepper.
Wow.
It's not even Pepsi.
All that money for Michael Jackson didn't even last that long.
Pepsi is third.
Pepsi is third now. Dr. Pepper is pretty good.
Dr. Pepper is better, and
So-
honestly should be number one in my
So
opinion.
in the weighted corner, we have Coke. Coke had quite a few people singing in their ads
Yeah.
in the 80s. They had Kim Carnes,
Yeah.
Betty Davis eyes.
Yep.
Whitney Houston,
Yep.
Elton John,
Big. Yep.
Laura Branigan,
Don't know that one.
Gloria. Not that Gloria, the other one.
Don't know.
No,
that
we'll see later.
one. All right.
So those are pretty big. I'd say Whitney Houston, Elton John in 1980.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's pretty big. Paula Abdul, was pretty big at the time.
Yes,
And
she
really
was,
all of them
actually.
are quite large. Pepsi, as you mentioned, Michael Jackson, also had Tina Turner and Rod Stewart showing up in their ads.
I mean, that's pretty big, but it doesn't compare, in my opinion. Like, I feel like, right?
To Michael?
To Elton John,
Elton John?
Whitney Houston.
Rod Stewart,
Yeah.
Tina Turner.
Tina Turner is great, but Whitney Houston in the late 80s.
Yeah,
And she, Whitney Houston had, that. Her career is crazy.
yeah,
She'd be, changing it up.
yeah,
Tina Turner is just, she's rock.
yeah.
I'm sorry. She's
Well,
not,
At the end of the
my
day, Pepsi had Michael, and nobody's better than Michael. Sorry, Barry.
thing. I guess that's
No
true.
Michael maybe ever.
I wonder,
What
what about Sprite?
And 100.
Who's the Sprite?
Isn't Sprite owned by Pepsi?
They are owned
Coke, yeah.
by,
Sprite,
Coke.
what, Drake?
Yeah.
Drake in the Sprite ads, yeah. It's not like this stuff. They still go on. One Kardashians and the Pepsi ad.
Oh my god, that's my favorite one.
Yeah.
Where she's it's like a war.
Mhm.
It's like Black Lives Matter protest war.
Yeah.
And she's like, have a Pepsi. She
Yeah.
breaks the line.
Michael-
Have a Pepsi.
Michael Bublé is in ads for bubbly water, which I think is owned by Pepsi, maybe Coke.
That's the frustrating thing is whenever there's a new
Since
something,
soda's less
they
popular now.
just
Yeah.
buy it.
Yeah,
They
well,
own the water too,
They do
all
own, yeah.
all the bottled water. They
Mhm.
also own that.
Well, after 119 things, Billy Joel finally said, "I can't take it anymore." Me either, dog.
He's like, stop
We're
this,
12
please.
pages into notes here. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. We didn't start the fire. But when we are gone, it will still burn on.
And on, and on, and on, and on.
Well, Emerald, I hope you liked that whirlwind trip through 40 years of history. From
I learned a
49
lot.
to 89.
Yeah.
I know some of those we could have spent a whole podcast on discussing, so hopefully you take some of those that may find interest, look into a little deeper.
I was thinking about that, yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely are.
I don't
And-
normally cite sources because it's so loose, but I figured I mentioned some of these because I had to look into somebody. Number one, Wikipedia. Let's not lie.
And if you say Wikipedia is not a good source, you go fuck yourself.
I mean,
right
it's
now.
sourced on there. If you don't
It's,
look where it's
exactly.
coming
You go on Wikipedia,
from.
it tells you where they get their information from. It's a reputable
Yeah,
source.
Encyclopedia Britannica, which
Alright.
when I was 110 things into this, found out they had one that just broke down all of these already.
So you could have done that from the start.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Theirs are pretty, weak. They didn't really go into deep. And if it was a famous person, they didn't say, why it's right there in that time period. It would just be
Oh,
he's like,
it's this person.
Albert Einstein was a genius man. Okay, whatever. But it helped on, when I couldn't find begin.
Right.
The Israeli dude. You go into Google, type in the word begin,
Yeah.
and guess what? It's just a regular word.
It's just a word. Use it every day.
History Channel website had some interesting kind of
Articles. And
articles,
Stuff?
some time capsule stuff. Q105 out of Tampa had probably the most useful article I found on the Rock and Rolla Cola Wars because they highlighted a collection of every one of the ads of Pepsi and Coke from that time period that featured a rock star.
Oh, that's fun.
And a number of different U.S. government pages. Surprisingly, our own government has quite a few just history articles.
Right.
And some are really cool because they're archive stuff. So it'll have the press release from, I mentioned vaccines.
Yeah.
When I was looking into that, I read Einstein's, Eisenhower's speech about getting the polio vaccine and why you should do it. So they have some really cool archival stuff that's not just a summed up Wikipedia page.
Right.
I looked.
It's the full details. Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the FBI website for the hijacking one. I don't even know what to describe the FBI one as because it starts out as a press release, I think, from 85 about the hijacking. That's effectively a statement on who the main hijacker is and who the other two are.
Oh.
It was what happened. They're on the lam. It's worth $250,000. Go find this man.
Huh.
But then, the next paragraph shifts into that he's captured in 87 and some more history. So clearly it's some weird hodgepodge of, FBI documents from the past that they'd, kind of melded into one on a website that looked older than dirt.
Right.
But at the end of the time, you don't get, a feed like that from Wikipedia because Wikipedia is very dry.
Yeah, it just states the facts.
Hilariously, the foreign debt thing has a massive, massive write-up in history on our Federal Reserve website.
Yeah.
That breaks it down in ways that some of it was maybe a little beyond me. But
I mean, that
at least
makes
got
sense.
the
Is that not
idea.
their job?
I mean, that is. But as I'm saying, like, there's resources out there to go find kind of cool stuff that's interesting how much of it's from, like, actual government or...
But do you trust it?
I trust that Federal Reserve one. It was very... And as I said, the FBI one was very, like, this is clearly some sort of... I don't even know, maybe even a handout to, like, their own FBI agents, the way it was written, of, like, on some of the chunks of it. It was really weird. It was, like, headlined as, like, famous criminals or something on, like, their website. It was very funny. But anyway, this was quite the detour as we traveled through time. Thank you, Mr. Billy Joel. I think I actually gained some respect more for this song. I know he says he doesn't like it, and the reason he says he doesn't like it is really because it's the thing. He doesn't like it musically.
Really?
He says it's not very interesting. It's kind of a lazy piece of music.
It's very, like, crammed together.
Yeah, I've heard Billy Joel mention before his songwriting process is to make the music first, and then he writes lyrics around what he thinks it, like, fits that sound.
Interesting.
And since it sounds like he had the idea for this song from a lyrical standpoint first, I wonder if he wrote this the other direction. Of where he had, I want to do this, so I gotta get a piece of music to fit that. And then my guess is he just kind of had to jam something in to fit just rattling off 119 things.
Right. Yeah. Which is, like, different for him, so that's probably why he doesn't like it as much.
Yeah. Also,
Interesting.
I don't care what anybody says about being like, oh, it's not a good song. Anything that can, like, get people to care about history, that's cool,
Yeah.
right?
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to put it on and listen. Well, I might now that we talked about all this stuff because, once again, like, I'm interested in history to a point, but I clearly am so, like, not.
Oh, nobody can know all of this stuff.
Like, I
there's too much.
Yeah, but, like, I guess what I'm saying is I don't even know that I paid attention to the lyrics to even catch these
Oh, and some of
things.
them, I mean, it's just like a one-word thing. Like, I didn't know what he was saying on some of them.
Right. So, we'll have to listen to it again after this.
Yeah.
I've never seen the music video. Maybe we'll
There's a lot
watch
of
that.
fire in it.
Well, makes sense.
Alrighty.
Wait, are you going to, you know that they remade this song? Did you know that?
They? Ooh, they're like
The music
the
industry.
Shadow Cabal?
Yeah. Fall Out Boy. The
Fallout
Shadow.
Boy did, huh?
Yeah.
Like a cover?
It's actually not a cover. It's they remade it, so it's all modernized.
So it's like the same idea, but modern things instead?
Yeah. Maybe they picked up with after Rock and Roller Cola Wars. Rock and Roller Cola Wars. Maybe
I can't take it anymore.
maybe they picked up after
Right after
that.
1990 onward?
Maybe maybe if they were
that would make
clever.
sense,
If they
yeah.
were clever, that's what they would do. But maybe they just did
Did random stuff.
90s to 2000s stuff.
I'll have to listen to it.
I've heard it
This
once.
took me like 2 weeks. We'll see if I would do another one that's of this deep.
It might be easier because it's more modern.
That's
you
true.
know?
I'll probably
You won't
know
have
some of
to.
them, like,
Yeah,
every
you won't have to Google.
You know, cultural reference.
Exactly.
Good point. All right, we'll see if I show up sometime in the future and I'm like, hey guys, go check out Fallout Boy's reimagining of We Didn't Start the Fire. That I remember when that came out, it was very panned.
Yeah.
Which, as I said, people typically point this is bad, but y'all are liars because this song hit number one because a bunch of people bought this single.
That's right.
And you ain't bought. This is Billy Joel's third number one song.
Wow.
Third number one song. We Didn't Start the Fire. Don't tell me you didn't like this. Y'all bought this thing like
They
crazy.
bought it. They played it on the radio. I heard it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even a Billy Joel fan, so.
All right. I'm wrapping this up.
All right.
I can't take this anymore. We Didn't Start the Fire. This has been Tapes You Leave Behind. I've been Brian.
And I'm Emerald.
See you next time.
Bye.